Imagine this. You're part of a community, you're hungry, maybe you ask for something specific to eat, and bam, you might have just committed an offense requiring a formal confession. Sounds pretty intense, right? Well, today we're actually taking a fascinating trip back in time. We're diving deep into the really intricate world of ancient monastic rules, specifically looking at the daily lives and, importantly, the dietary rules for early Buddhist nuns, the Bhikkhunis.
Yeah, and the material we're drawing on, it comes from the Pāṭidesaniya sections within the broad monastic code, the Vinaya. These texts give us this unique glimpse, really, into the day-to-day challenges, the ethical thinking that shaped these early Buddhist communities.
It's quite amazing. So our mission today is to unpack these rules, not just what they were, but, how did they come about? What was the goal? And the distinctions they made about food, health, even your own intention. It's surprisingly detailed. Okay, so where do we start with this? How did the first rule about, say, ghee come up?
Right, so the story begins, as many do, with the Buddha residing in Savatthi at the Jetavana monastery. That's the scene.
A familiar setting.
Exactly. And the trigger, it was a specific group of nuns known as the Chabagya Bhikkhunis. They were seen, asking for ghee, sapi venyo petva, and then eating it bunjanti.
Okay, so they asked for ghee and ate it, and this caused a stir.
A big one. Immediately, there was this public criticism. People started murmuring. The texts say things like, how can nuns beg for ghee and eat it? I mean, who doesn't like rich food? Who doesn't prefer tasty food?
So it's hitting that nerve about perception, about monks and nuns appearing too indulgent, maybe.
Precisely. It really flags how important public opinion and the image of the Sangha were. Their actions had ripple effects.
And was it just lay people complaining?
No, interestingly, even other nuns chimed in. Specifically the Apicha nuns, those known for having few desires, for being content with little. They also criticized the Chabagya nuns.
So internal criticism, too. What happened next? Did the Buddha get involved?
He did. He inquired about it, confirmed that yes, this was happening, and then he publicly criticized the behavior. He basically said it wasn't good for winning over new followers or even keeping existing ones happy. It undermined the whole project, essentially.
Okay, so that led directly to a rule.
Directly. The first prohibition, the Sikkhapada, it stated that any nun who begged for ghee and then ate it committed an offense. The Pali description is quite strong. Garahe aya the mafachi asapaya Pāṭidesaniya, basically. A blameworthy, unsuitable act that required a formal confession.
A confessable offense just for asking for and eating ghee. That sounds quite absolute.
It does, initially. But this is where things get more complex and, frankly, quite insightful. The story doesn't end there.
Okay. What happened?
Well, the practical reality set in. Nuns started getting sick. And they realized that without ghee, their health was actually suffering.
Oh, wow. So the rule created a health problem.
In some cases, yes. And they felt this anxiety, this kukukainta, the scrupulousness about breaking the rule even to get better. They were in a bind.
So what did they do? What did the Buddha do?
This is the compassionate turn. When the Buddha learned about this dilemma, he adjusted the rule. He specifically permitted ill nuns, Vinaya Pitaka, to ask for and eat ghee.
Okay. So an exception for health reasons. That makes
Crucial one. And it led to this refined rule. The offense only applied if a nun was ajilana, meaning not ill.
And how did they define ill versus not ill in this context? Was it specific?
Surprisingly so. An ajilana, or non-ill nun, was defined as someone for whom living without ghee was pleasant, or at least tolerable. A jilana, an ill nun, was someone for whom it was not pleasant without ghee. It's quite a practical definition.
That is practical. It's tied directly to the need for that specific food.
Exactly. And they even specified the types of ghee, cow, goat, buffalo, clarifying it had to be from animals whose meat was generally considered acceptable within the monastic context.
So it's not just what you eat, but why you need it. That's quite nuanced. Did they also look at things like intention or how a nun saw her own health?
They absolutely did. This is where the Vinaya gets fascinatingly detailed about the internal state. It wasn't just the final act of eating. A non-ill nun could actually incur offenses at different stages.
Like how?
Well, just the act of asking for ghee for herself, even if she didn't get it, was a dukkaya, a wrongdoing.
Just asking, okay.
Then receiving the ghee with the intention of eating it, that was another dukkaya.
Right.
And then the full Pāṭidesaniya, the confessable offense, was incurred for each mouthful she actually ate while not being ill.
Wow. So it builds up a bit like modern legal distinctions almost. And what about her perception? You mentioned that.
Yes, that's critical. How she perceived her own state mattered hugely. Look at these scenarios. If a nun was actually ill, and she knew she was ill, Gilana perceiving herself as a Gilana, then there was no offense, anapati.
Okay, that's clear.
But if she was not ill, Ajilana, but maybe convinced herself she was, or was just doubtful so, Ajilana perceiving herself as Jilana or Ajilana, but doubtful she still got the full Pāṭidesaniya offense for eating it.
So self-deception or maybe just wishful thinking didn't get you off the hook.
Not at all. Conversely, if she was ill, but thought she wasn't, or was doubtful, Gilana, perceiving herself as Ajilana or doubtful, she only incurred the lesser Dukkhaya offense, not the full confessable one.
That suggests the fact of her illness offered some protection, even if her perception was off.
Yeah.
But being dishonest about not being ill was the bigger issue.
Exactly. It really puts the emphasis on internal honesty and self-awareness regarding one's actual needs versus desires.
That's a level of psychological insight that's quite striking. Now, given these rules, were there any loopholes? Or maybe structured exemptions where eating ghee was okay, even if not strictly ill? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes, definitely. The system wasn't totally rigid. It accounted for real life. Besides being ill, there were other specific anapati, non-offense situations.
Such as?
Okay, so obviously being ill, Gil and I. Also, if you begged for ghee while you were ill, but then you got better before you finished eating it, that was okay.
Ah, practical. No wasting food, perhaps.
Seems like it. Also, eating the leftovers from an ill nun was fine. And significantly, receiving ghee from relatives, from yatakana.
Family connections mattered.
They did. Or receiving it from people who had formally invited you to receive requisites, pavartitana.
Okay, formal invitations created an exception.
Right. Also, eating ghee for another's benefit, anyasataya, not your own. And maybe surprisingly, eating ghee you'd purchase with your own resources, atano tanena.
Own money. So nuns could have some personal funds. It's a whole other topic, but interesting it appears here.
It is. And then there were exemptions for those considered not fully responsible, like a nun who was mad, dumadikaya. And finally, a bit of grace for first-time offenders, adikamikaya.
A first offense wasn't treated the same way. That shows some understanding of adjusting to the rules.
Absolutely. So you see, these exemptions paint a picture of, well, a system trying to be workable. It considers health, social ties, intent, even mental state, and a learning curve.
It's fascinating how they balanced the ideal of renunciation with these practical needs and social realities. It wasn't just a blanket no.
Not at all. And this whole structure, the initial problem with the Chibagya nuns, the public reaction, the first rule, the health issue, the refinement for illness, the different levels of offense, the exemptions, this exact pattern was then applied to other foods too.
Ah, so ghee was just the start. It wasn't only about ghee.
Ghee was the first, the precedent. But the same group, the Chivagya Bhikkhunis, apparently continued to test boundaries, or perhaps just liked desirable foods, leading to similar issues with other items.
Okay, so what else got added to this list of confessable if you beg for it when not ill foods?
7 other items,
Yeah.
making 8 Pāṭidesaniya rules in total for the nuns. These were oil, specifically things like sesame, mustard, castor oil, even certain animal fats.
Oil, okay.
Honey, matu, specifically bee honey. Treacle or jaggery,
Yeah.
basically. Concentrated sugarcane juice.
Sweet things.
Yes. Then fish, macham, again with the caveat that it had to be from animals whose meat was generally permissible.
Fish and meat. Interesting.
Milk, cow, goat, buffalo, same animal restrictions. And finally, curd or yogurt from the same sources.
So ghee, oil, honey, jaggery, fish, meat, milk, and curd. Quite a list of, well, nutrient-dense or perhaps more luxurious items for the time.
Exactly. These 8 make up the Atopa Pāṭidesaniya Dhamma for nuns. The core principle remained the same for all of them. If you're not ill, asking for these specific things for yourself and eating them requires a confession.
So when you step back, what does this elaborate system tell us? For you listening in, it's clearly not just about what's on the menu. It's about the how, the why, the need, and even crucially, what you think your need is.
Yeah, connecting it to the bigger picture, what we see is this really quite sophisticated attempt at ethical governance within a community. They're constantly trying to balance the ideal renunciation, simplicity, non-dependence, with unavoidable realities like sickness, the need for social support, and importantly, how the community is perceived by outsiders.
It really brings it to life. This deep dive into these Pāṭidesaniya rules, it's not some dry list of forbidden foods. It's a window into how any community, ancient or modern, tries to create discipline but also maintain flexibility and genuine care for its members. You see the rules evolving in response to real situations.
Absolutely. These stories, these rules, they show that dynamic process. Rulemaking wasn't a one-time event. It was iterative, shaped by what people actually did, by public expectation, by the practical need for well-being. These ethical codes were living things, constantly being tested and refined.
So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, is this. What can these ancient rules about nuns asking for ghee or honey tell us about how any group, even today, navigates that tricky balance between community standards, public perception, individual needs, and the way guidelines inevitably evolve over time? Something to think about.